Swabble, Tiffany. Okay, glasses a little bit dirty. All right, beautiful people. Happy Friday, Bet swabble. Y'all, I'm so excited about the coming days of reading. I've been up since 4 o'clock just reading, going through stuff. Welcome, YouTube man. All right, I'm live over here. All right, let me pull this up, y'all. 7 and 27. Uh-oh. Okay, there we go. All right, y'all. 27. 7. All right, beautiful people. Happy Friday. It is November the 27th, 2020. Day number 9 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the, I keep saying 2 years. I've been saying it for a whole year. And of the 3-year consecutive day count, 679. Day 679. 679. All right, y'all. Today, we are going to be reading Genesis 25, 26, and 27. And the corresponding chapters to fill in some of the missing pieces will be found in Jasher 27 and chapter 7. And I said it backwards because we're going to read 27 first, and then we're going to jump back to 7. And I didn't even purposely do this. We just happened to skip over chapter 7 of Jasher while we was filling in the rest of the stuff. But when we read 27, which lines up with Genesis 27, we got to backtrack and jump all the way back to 7 so we can fill in one little missing piece. It's so good, y'all. It's so good, I'm telling you. Okay, so let me pull this up real quick here so we can get started. Close this. Close that. Okay. And remember, I will put the chapters into the comment section in the description box. All right, y'all. I gotta use my finger today because I did not check for my mouse that my children came and took off my laptop. Okay, 25. Down. Okay. All right, y'all. So let's get started and adjust this over here so I can see that. And I can see YouTube over here. Natasha, hey girl, hey. Okay, just wanted to check in before I left out to run my errands. Congratulations on being live. I'll check back later when I'm settled in. Thanks for dropping in, Natasha. Hey girl, hey. Okay, I know you always check it out when you get time. Okay. All right, y'all. So let's get started. Genesis chapter 25. I hate being without my mouse. Ugh. Okay. I had to diligently check for my mouse in the mornings to make sure my kids didn't swipe it off my laptop. Okay, y'all. Genesis chapter 25. And Abraham, remember, Sarah had died in the previous chapter. Okay. And Abraham married another wife. He didn't take her while she was alive. Sarah had already passed and some time had passed by. And this is where chapter 25 of Genesis starts. Abraham married another wife whose name was Keturah. She gave birth to Zimran, Jokshan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. Dedan's descendants were the Asherites, Letushites, and Lemuites. Midian's sons were Ephah, Hanok, Abida, and Eldah. These were all descendants of Abraham through Keturah. Abraham gave everything he owned to his son Isaac, but before he died, he gave gifts to the sons of his concubines and sent them off to a land in the east away from Isaac. Abraham lived 475 years, and he died at a ripe old age, having lived a long and satisfying life. He breathed his last and joined his ancestors in death. His son Isaac And Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite. This was the field Abraham had purchased from the Hittites where he had buried his wife Sarah. Now, remember this cave, the cave of Machpelah, okay? Machpelah. Remember, Abraham purchased this, and this was inheritance that he passed, not the only inheritance, but a portion of the inheritance that he passed down to his sons. Remember that cave. This was the field Abraham had purchased from the Hittites where he had buried his wife Sarah. After Abraham's death, Yahuwah blessed his son Isaac, who settled near Bir Lahai in the Negev. This is the account of the family of Ishmael, the son of Abraham, through Hagar, Sarah's Egyptian servant. Here is a list by their names and clans of Ishmael's descendants. The oldest was Nebaioth, followed by Kedar, Abil, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jeter, Nipshish, and Kedemah. These 12 sons of Ishmael became the founders of the 12 tribes named after them, listed according to the places they settled and camped. Shalom, shalom, Mom. Ishmael lived for 137 years. Then he breathed his last and joined his ancestors in death. Ishmael's descendants occupied the region from Havilah to Shur, which is east of Egypt in the direction of Asher. There they lived in open hostility toward all their relatives. Now, just those few verses right there, y'all, that is a, that is a very, 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 very small portion of what was taken from the expanded story. We're not going to read the full expanded story, but we will read a portion of this account with Ishmael, and as we go read today, as we read the corresponding chapters to what I want to bring out today about the birthright that Esau sold to Jacob, his brother. This is the account of the family of Isaac, the son of Abraham. When Isaac was 40 years old, he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean from Padan Aram, and the sister of Laban, the Aramean. Isaac pleaded with Yahuwah on behalf of his wife because she was unable to bear children. Yahuwah answered Isaac's prayer, and Rebekah became pregnant with twins. But the two children struggled with each other in the womb. So she went to ask Yahuwah about it. Why is this happening to me? She asked. And Yahuwah told her, the sons in your womb will become two nations. From the very beginning, the two nations will be rivals. One nation will be stronger than the other, and your older son will serve your younger son. Remember, before they were even born, this Yahuwah had told Isaac this, that the older son will serve the younger. So keep that in mind when we get to the portion where Isaac is giving the blessing to the two boys. Remember, Yahuwah had already said this before some of the shenanigans happened. Peace and blessings, peace and blessings. I'm glad you got to catch it live too. Okay, y'all. And when the time came to give birth, Rebekah discovered that she did indeed have twins. The first one was very red at birth and covered with thick hair like a fur coat. They named him Esau. Then the other twin was born with his hand grasping Esau's heel. So they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when the twins were born. As the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. He was an outdoorsman, but Jacob had a quiet temperament, preferring to stay at home. Isaac loved Esau because he enjoyed eating the wild game Esau brought home, but Rebekah loved Jacob. One day when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau arrived home from the wilderness, exhausted and hungry. And right here, that little portion right there is the story we're going to fill in today so you can see why Esau came home and he was exhausted. They left out so much, which would have given us the proper understanding of what was going on here. But because we didn't, and this book was hidden for a period of time, teachings started happening in the church and what we were given, and those teachings kind of prevailed throughout time, and now people have an inaccurate account of what truly happened here. It blows my mind. One day, when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau arrived home from the wilderness exhausted and hungry. Esau said to Jacob, I'm starved. Give me some of that red stew. This is how Esau got his other name, Edom, which means red. All right, Jacob replied, but trade me your rights as the firstborn. Look, I'm dying of starvation, said Esau. What good is my birthright to me now? He wasn't just dying of starvation. I ain't gonna give it away, Tiffany. I keep thinking about what you said, went on to add some extra comments in, but I'll hold as much back as I can. But I want to make sure you guys are paying attention so when we get to it, you can put the pieces together. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and lentil stew. Esau ate the meal, then got up and left. He showed contempt for his rights as the firstborn. Genesis 26. As a severe famine now struck the land, as had happened before in Abraham's time. So Isaac moved to Gerar, where Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, lived. Yahuwah appeared to Isaac and said, do not go down to Egypt, but do as I tell you. Live here as a foreigner in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. I hereby confirm that I will give all these lands to you and your descendants, just as I solemnly promised Abraham your father. I will cause your descendants to become as numerous as the stars of the sky, and I will give them all these lands, and through your descendants, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. I will do this because Abraham listened to me and obeyed all my requirements, commands, decrees, and instructions. So Isaac stayed in Gerar. When the men who lived there asked Isaac about his wife Rebekah, he said, she is my sister. He was afraid to say, she is my wife. Now, mind you, remember the same thing happened with Abraham and Sarah. We just read about this 2 other times what has happened, right? So remember, this particular king, this Abimelech here, this was not the original Abimelech, but this was the original Abimelech's son, whom they also named Abimelech. So when you hear Abimelech in regards to Rebekah and Isaac, it's talking about the son of the one who experienced those shenanigans with Abraham and Sarah. All right, just so you know. When the men who lived there asked Isaac about his wife Rebekah, he said, she is my sister. He was afraid to say, she is my wife. He thought, they will kill me to get her because she is so beautiful. But sometime later, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out his window and saw Isaac caressing Rebekah. Immediately, Abimelech called for Isaac and exclaimed, she is obviously your wife. Why did you say she is my sister? Because I was afraid someone would kill me to get her from me, Isaac replied. How could you do this to us? Abimelech exclaimed. One of my people might have easily have taken your wife and slept with her, and you would have made us guilty of great sin. Even the heathen kings knew what type of sin you would be sinning against Yah when they do some of these things. So they weren't dumb. They knew exactly what they were doing and what was going on in the decrees of Yah. They really did. If you pay attention, they knew. They just chose not to do it. Then Abimelech issued a public proclamation. Anyone who touches this man or his wife will be put to death. When Isaac planted his crops that year, he harvested 100 times more. Josiah's waving hi to everybody, y'all. He stuck his head in here. When Isaac planted his crops that year, he harvested 100 times more grain than he planted, for Yahuwah blessed him. He became a very rich man, and his wealth continued to grow. He acquired so many flocks and sheep and goats, herds of cattle, and servants that the Philistines became jealous of him. So the Philistines filled up all of Isaac's wells with dirt. These were the wells that had been dug by the servants of his father Abraham. Finally, Abimelech ordered Isaac to leave the country. Go somewhere else, he said, for you have become too powerful for us. So Isaac moved away to the Gerar Valley, where he set up their tents and settled down. He reopened the wells his father had dug, which the Philistines had filled in after Abraham's death. Isaac also restored the names Abraham had given them. Isaac's servants also dug in the Gerar Valley and discovered a well of fresh water. But then the shepherds from Gerar came and claimed the spring. This is our water, they said, and they argued over it with Isaac's herdsmen. So Isaac named the well Esek, which means argument. Isaac's men then dug another well, but again there was a dispute over it. So Isaac named it Sitnah, which means hostility. Abandoning that one, Isaac moved on and dug another well. This time there was no dispute over it, so Isaac named the place Rehoboth, which means open space. For he said, at last, Yahuwah has created enough space for us to prosper in this land. From there, Isaac moved to Beersheba, where Yahuwah appeared to him on the night of his arrival. I am the God of your father, Abraham, he said. Do not be afraid, for I am with you, and I will bless you. I will multiply your descendants, and they will become a great nation. I will do this because of my promise to Abraham, my servant. Then Isaac built an altar there and worshiped Yahuwah. He set up his camp at that place, and his servants dug another well. One day, King Abimelech came from Gerar with his advisor, Ahuzzath, and Phicol, his army commander. Why have you come here? Isaac asked. You obviously hate me since you kicked me off your land. They replied, we can plainly see that Yahuwah is with you, so we want to enter into a sworn treaty with you. Let's make a covenant. Swear that you will not harm us, just as we have never troubled you. We have always treated you well and sent you away from us in peace. And now look how Yahuwah has blessed you. So Isaac prepared a covenant feast to celebrate the treaty, and they ate and drank together. Early the next morning, they each took a solemn oath not to interfere with each other. Then Isaac sent them home again, and they left him in peace. On that very day, Isaac's servants came to him and told him about a new well they had dug. We found water, they exclaimed. So Isaac named the well Seba, which means oath. And to this day, the town that grew up there is called Beersheba, which means well of the oath. At the age of 40, Esau married two Hittite wives, Judith. Chill. At the age of 40, Esau married two Hittite wives, Judith, the daughter of Birthright, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon. But Esau's wives made life miserable for Isaac and Rebekah. All right, y'all, we're going to read this last chapter before we get to Jasher 27 and 7, where we fill in all these missing pieces, y'all. Genesis 27. Hop down, Boot. And this is Isaiah. They just waking up, y'all. They want to stick their head in the picture, so good morning. Hop down. Genesis 27. One day, when Isaac was old and turning blind, he called for Esau, his older son, and said, my son. Yes, father, Esau replied. I'm an old man now, Isaac said, and I don't know when I may die. Take your bow and quiver full of arrows and go out into the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare my favorite dish and bring it here for me to eat. Then I will pronounce the blessing that belongs to you, my firstborn son, before I die. And remember, think about this, y'all. When we're about to read this blessing, remember, Yahuwah had already said that the older was going to serve the younger. And I want you to pay attention to when he's actually giving the blessing, how when he blesses Jacob, listen to the words of that blessing. Then when he comes back and he blesses Esau after he constantly cried out, Father, is there not enough blessing left for me? The blessing, I'm not sure if you guys ever paid attention to it, but the blessing that he gives to Esau is a direct opposite blessing that he had just given to Jacob. Almost word for word, but in the opposite direction. Okay. I'm an old man now, Isaac said, and I don't know when I may die. Take your bow and a quiver full of arrows and go out into the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare my favorite dish and bring it here for me to eat. Then I will pronounce the blessing that belongs to you, my firstborn son, before I die. But Rebekah, overheard what Isaac had said to his son Esau. So when Esau left to hunt for the wild game, she said to her son Jacob, listen, I overheard your father say to Esau, bring me some wild game and prepare me a delicious meal. Then I will bless you in Yahuwah's presence before I die. Now, my son, listen to me. Do exactly as I tell you. Go out to the flocks and bring me 2 fine young goats. I'll use them to prepare your father's favorite dish. Then take the food to your father so he can eat it and bless you before he dies. But look, Jacob replied to Rebekah, my brother Esau is a hairy man, and my skin is smooth. What if my father touches me? He'll see that I'm trying to trick him, and then he'll curse me instead of blessing me. But his mother replied, then let the curse fall on me, my son. Just do what I tell you. Go out and get the goats for me. Remember, I tell y'all gotta pay attention to what y'all saying out your mouth. Remember, um, the what we talked about yesterday when Sarah said, "Oh, that it had been me that died instead of my son, Isaac." Y'all gotta be mindful of the words you speak out your mouth. They're really powerful. But what if my father touches me? He'll see that I'm trying to trick him, and then he'll curse me instead of blessing me. But his mother replied, then let the curse fall on me, my son. Just do what I tell you. Go out and get the goats for me. So Jacob went out and got the young goats for his mother. Rebekah took them and prepared a delicious meal just the way Isaac liked it. Then she took Esau's favorite clothes, which were there in the house, and gave them to her younger son Jacob. And she covered his arms and the smooth part of his neck with the skin of the young goats. Then she gave Jacob a delicious meal, including freshly baked bread. So Jacob took the food to his father. My father, he said. Yes, my son, Isaac answered. Who are you, Esau or Jacob? Jacob replied, it's Esau, your firstborn. I've done as you have told me. Here's the wild game. Now sit up and eat it so you can give me your blessing. Isaac asked, how did you find it so quickly, my son? Yahuwah, Yahuwah, your God put it in my path, Jacob replied. Then Isaac said to Jacob, come closer so I can touch you and make sure that you really are Esau. So Jacob went closer to his father, and Isaac touched him. The voice is Jacob's, but the hands are Esau's, Isaac said. But he did not recognize Jacob because Jacob's hands felt hairy like Esau's. So Isaac prepared to bless Jacob. But are you really my son Esau? He asked. Yes, I am, Jacob replied. Then Isaac said, now, my son, bring me the wild game. Let me eat it. Then I will give you my blessing. So Jacob took the food to his father, and Isaac ate it. He also drank the wine that Jacob served him. Then Isaac said to Jacob, please come a little closer and kiss me, my son. So Jacob went over and kissed him. Stop, Isaiah. And when Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he was finally convinced. And he blessed his son and said, the smell of my son is like the smell of outdoors, which Yahuwah has blessed. From the dew, and here's the blessing. From the dew of heaven and the richness of the earth, may Yahuwah always give you abundant harvest of grain and bountiful new wine. May many nations become your servants, and may they bow down to you. And may you be master over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. All who curse you will be cursed, and all who bless you will be blessed. As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and almost before Jacob had left his father, Esau returned from his hunt. Esau prepared a delicious meal and brought it to his father. Then he said, sit up, my father, and eat my wild game so you can give me my blessing. But Isaac asked him, who are you? Esau replied, it's your son, your firstborn, Esau. Isaac began to tremble uncontrollably and said, then who just served me wild game? I have already eaten it and blessed him just before you came. And yes, that blessing must stand. When Esau heard his father's words, he let out a loud and bitter cry. Oh, my father, what about me? Bless me too, he begged. But Isaac said, your brother was here and he tricked me. He has taken away your blessing. Esau exclaimed, no wonder his name is Jacob, for he has cheated me twice. For he took my rights as the firstborn, and now he has stolen my blessing. Oh, haven't you saved even one blessing for me? Isaac said to Esau, I have made Jacob your master and declared that all his brothers will be his servants. I have guaranteed him an abundance of grain and wine. What is left for me to give you, my son? Esau pleaded, but do you have only one blessing? Oh, father, bless me too. Then Esau broke down and wept. And let me just bring out something here. How powerful is the blessing of a father when they truly bless their children? That's also something that we have forgotten through the period of our captivity, that Yahuwah has given unto us to bless our children. Remember, lay your hands on your children and bless them. Bless them with all good things. Finally, his father Isaac said to him, you will live. Listen, now listen to this. Remember the blessing that he just gave to Jacob. Now listen how this is the exact opposite of what he just blessed Jacob with, that he's now speaking over Esau. Finally, his father Isaac said to him, You will live away from the richness of the earth and away from the dew of the heaven above. You will live by your sword and you will serve your brother. But when you decide to break free, you will shake his yoke from your neck. That's the exact opposite. Go ahead and highlight them two blessings. And later, when you get a chance, go back and compare them, y'all. From that time on, Esau hated Jacob because their father had given Jacob the blessing. And Esau began to scheme. I will soon be mourning my father's death. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. But Rebekah heard about Esau's plan. So she sent for Jacob and told him, listen, Esau is consoling himself by plotting to kill you. So listen carefully, my son. Get ready and flee to my brother Laban in Haran. And mind you, he did at this point, they skipped something. He didn't actually go to Laban at this point. He actually fled to Shem and Shem's son. And then he came back. And then when he fled the second time, then he went to Laban. That's what I'm saying. There's so much in here that they took out that you don't understand. That's why we're about to read it. So we're almost done with this, and we're going to fill in all those missing pieces so y'all can see what really happened here. Stay there with him until your brother cools off. And when he calms down and forgets what you have done, I will send for you to come back. Why should I lose both of you in one day? Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I am sick and tired of these local Hittite women. I would rather die than to see Jacob marry one of them. And that is the end of the reading for today. But also with this statement right here, which we're about to see, what Rebekah just said to Isaac about these Hittite women, that was true, but that was also her way of getting Isaac to let Jacob get out of there. All right, so let's go ahead and hop on over here, y'all, to Jasher chapter 27, and we're going to see what this birthright really was. Some of you may know, but some of you may not, due to erroneous teachings. So let's add some truth to this knowledge that we have and make proper adjustments if needed and where needed. All right, y'all, Jasher 27.
I'm trying to find my name.
Oh, sure. Your name is back here, right here. See? Isaiah. There it is. Yes, sir. Yeah. Okay. All right, Isaiah. Okay, Jasher chapter 27, y'all. And Esau at that time, I'm sorry, y'all, hold on. Okay. Amen, Aliyah. It's good in the eyes of the Most High, Yahuwah, for the children to draw nigh unto their strength, because the kingdom belongs to those that are meek like him, and the Most High continue to watch over them forevermore. Amen, brother. Amen. All right, y'all. Jasher chapter 27. And Esau at that time, after the death of Abraham, frequently went to the field to hunt. And Nimrod, the king of Babel, the same was Amraphel, also frequently went with his mighty men to hunt in the field and to walk about with his men in the cool of the day. And Nimrod was observing Esau all the days, for a jealousy was formed in the heart of Nimrod against Esau all the days. And on a certain day, Esau went into the field to hunt, and he found Nimrod walking in the wilderness of his two men, walking in the wilderness with his two men. Y'all remember who Nimrod was, right? Up to this point, we know that Nimrod was a mighty hunter, and he usurped a lot of different kingdoms in the surrounding areas. And some places say in all the earth, some places say in the whole land, but other places said on the whole earth, you know. So he was ruling, and Nimrod was very, very well known. And he was also king when Babel, the Tower of Babel, was being built. But we're about to find out a little bit more about Nimrod and how he became a mighty hunter and what happened between him and Esau. And we'll see why Esau decided on that day he ran into the house with Jacob, he was going to give up his birthright. Because I'll stop right there. I'll bring it back up when we get there. So pay attention, y'all. Wait a minute, boo. We'll do that in a second. We'll finish reading. And Nimrod was observing Esau all the days, for a jealousy was formed in the heart of Nimrod against Esau all the days. And on a certain day, Esau went into the field to hunt, and he found Nimrod walking in the wilderness with his two men, and all his mighty men and his people were with him in the wilderness. But they removed at a distance from him and they went from him in different directions to hunt. And Esau concealed himself for Nimrod, and he lurked for him in the wilderness. And Nimrod and his men that were with him did not know him. And Nimrod and his men frequently walked about in the field at the cool of the day to know where his men were hunting in the field. And Nimrod and 2 of his men that were with him came to the place where they were, and Esau started suddenly from his lurking place, or he jumped out from his lurking place, and drew his sword and hastened and ran to Nimrod and cut off his head. And Esau fought a desperate fight with the 2 men that were with Nimrod. And when they called out to him, Esau turned to them and smote them to death with his sword. And all the mighty men of Nimrod who had left him to go to the wilderness heard the cry at a distance. And they knew the voices of those 2 men, and they ran to know the cause of it when they found their king and the 2 men that were with him lying dead in the wilderness.
You didn't write it. He said, "Mom wore gloves while washing swine juice." Read it. Who wrote that? You wrote that?
I'm sorry, y'all.
Who wrote that?
I'm sorry. I gotta share this with y'all. Okay.
Yo, you wrote that?
Who wrote this?
It's your handwriting, ain't it?
Whose handwriting?
I didn't write that.
You know, I don't write like this. I'm sorry. Okay, so y'all.
I only know it's your mom and dad.
Okay.
Somebody wrote
So this is probably backwards. So I'm gonna read it to you real quick. We're gonna hop back to this reading. One of my sons wrote, and this looks like Joshua's handwriting.
No, you gotta see.
I'm gonna tell the truth. I do.
Go ahead.
I wear gloves if I touch any kind of meat.
Go ahead, though.
Yeah.
It looks like Joshua's handwriting. He came down here, wrote it, and showed it to Dad. It says, "Mom wears gloves before washing swine juice. Have gotten on dishes." Oh,
the swine juice got on the dishes.
The swine juice got on the dishes. I wear gloves. Okay, so let me just explain what this means real quick.
Food in last night?
Yeah, I did. Okay.
What does swine juice say?
Let's not start about your ham center.
Okay. You want just sitting upstairs you want just sitting with me? No, let me quit. Go ahead.
I did not. Don't be lying on public stuff like I be doing stuff and I don't. You better tell the truth. You better come put your face in here and repent. You better say something. Okay, but anyway, so okay, let me just tell the story. Anyway, so I cooked yesterday, right? And my oldest son and his family came over. We got a new grandbaby and stuff. So anyway, my husband, he's not fully off the meat, and he decided he got a taste for ham. You know, ain't ate ham, it's gonna tear his stomach up. We ain't done pork and I don't know how long. But anyway, when he did everything, he
act like that ham one of the best, Jack.
You didn't see me putting that nail piece of meat to my face.
I put the ham juice over your greens. How you know?
No, you didn't.
Oh, go ahead. Finish talking.
You better stop. Listen, y'all, if y'all been here long enough, y'all know about the shenanigans of my husband. I'm so sorry. And people y'all might have to get to work. But anyway, let me say this since they didn't already said it. And you stay right here while I'm explaining everything too. Oh, he gets on my nerves. So, okay, so if y'all don't know, I've taken the Nazarite vow, so I don't eat meat at all. Even before I took it, like 2 years prior, I had stopped eating meat anyway. So I'm like, all right, Father, my family at this point is still eating meat. How do I not touch the dead beast? You know, I had my son coming down here to help, but he always wasn't available. So I ordered me some gloves, you know, so I wear the cooking gloves when I have to prepare it, but I still use like the tongs and stuff just to make sure. I'm like, Father, I'm doing the best I can here. I'm trying to keep the vow that I made. So, but that's where my son Josh, that's what he was talking about me wearing the gloves so I don't touch the swine juice on the dishes while I was washing the dishes. Yeah, I know. I just read it. So that's where that comes from, that letter that he had wrote. You know, they was telling Dad I was wearing gloves off while washing dishes so I wouldn't get the swine juice on my hands. So, all right, y'all. Back to the reading. Mr. James Murphy. I lost my spot.
Dad.
Okay.
That's what I do too.
Joshua's name is...
Okay, let me find my spot here, y'all. I'm so sorry.
Yes,
He's got
his finger all over this. Look.
That's not it.
Okay, I'll read verse 9 again. Hey, y'all gotta calm down. I'm almost done reading. Okay, verse 9, y'all, in Jasher chapter 27.
Hey.
You want to take over reading? I'm just don't say nothing else.
Turn me to the book of Michael.
That's why you know you play too much.
You said Saint Michael.
Saint regular Michael is none of the books.
You know what to
not, yeah, I know what you said, but they probably don't know. They probably think you for real. Wait.
Oh no.
You really think it's a book of Michael?
No.
No, that was a joke. Y'all weren't privy to that information. Okay.
Go ahead,
he was joking, y'all. He knows it's not a book of Michael in here. All right. Okay, verse 9, Jasher 27. I'm sorry, y'all. And all the mighty men of Nimrod who had left them to go to the wilderness heard the cry at a distance, and they knew the voices of the two men, and they ran to know the cause of it when they found their king and the two men that were with him lying dead in the wilderness. And when Esau saw the mighty men of Nimrod coming at a distance, he fled and thereby escaped. And Esau took the valuable garments of Nimrod. Listen to this, y'all. And we're going to find out what these valuable garments were. I read it again. And when Esau saw the mighty men of Nimrod coming at a distance, he fled and thereby escaped. And Esau took the valuable garments of Nimrod, which Nimrod's father had bequeathed to Nimrod, and with which Nimrod prevailed over the whole land. And he ran and concealed them in his house. Now listen to these garments, y'all. Listen to what these garments were that made Esau so powerful that he became the mightiest archer in the land. And he was able to pretty much rule over the entire earth at this time. Listen, it's about to tell you what they were. Stop, boy. And Esau took those garments and ran into the city on the account of Nimrod's men. And he came to his father's house weary and exhausted from fight, and he was ready to die through grief when he approached his brother Jacob and sat before him. Hold on, I'm sorry, I thought there was a part. No. We'll go back to it in chapter 7 when we jump back to it. I thought this was the part right here. I'll just read 11 again and we'll keep going. And Esau took those garments and ran into the city on the account of Nimrod's men. He came into his father's house weary and exhausted from fight, and he was ready to die through grief when he approached his brother Jacob and sat before him. So Esau was in duress when he ran into the house when Esau was cooking that red stew. And he said unto his brother Jacob, behold, I shall die this day. Wherefore then do I want the birthright? So Esau at this point, he thought he was about to die because he had just killed the mightiest man on earth at this time, Nimrod, and two of his mightiest men. So he was like, this is going to be my last meal. Anyway, I don't even need the birthright. And the birthright was that land. Remember that cave that Abraham purchased to bury Sarah in? But it wasn't just the cave. It was a nice portion of land along with everything that was on it and the trees. And it explained that when we go back and read that, it says all of that, right? So this was his birthright, this portion of land that was given unto him. And he felt like, you know what? They're going to catch me. I'm going to die anyway. I don't even need it, bro. Give me something to eat. This is about to be my last supper. Okay. And he said unto his brother Jacob, behold, I shall die this day. And wherefore then do I want the birthright? And Jacob acted wisely with Esau in this manner. And Esau sold his birthright to Jacob, for it was so bought about by Yahuwah. And Esau's portion of the cave of the field of Machpelah. Remember the cave? I said, remember this cave, the land Machpelah? Listen, this is exactly what it's talking about. And Esau's portion in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Abraham had bought for the children of Cheth from the possession of a burial ground, Esau also sold to Jacob. And Jacob bought all this from his brother Esau for a value given. So it wasn't just handed to him. Jacob actually paid him for this. And not only did he pay him, listen, and Jacob wrote the whole of this in a sefer, and he testified the same with witnesses, and he sealed it, and a sefer remained in the hands of Jacob. So not only did he give up everything he had because he was in duress, he had just killed Nimrod. He thought that surely his men was going to catch up with him and they were going to kill him this day. He was eating his last supper and he was giving away all his stuff to his brother. He said, "You can have everything. I'm gonna die anyway." You know. But when they made the transaction, it said Jacob dealt wisely in the situation, and he wrote everything in a sefer, or he wrote everything down on paper, pen and ink, and he had witnesses in their sight to see this transaction that had just taken place between these two brothers. Jacob did not usurp it from him. Jacob just used wisdom, and everything Esau freely gave over to his brother in the presence of witnesses, signed, documented, and sealed. And Jacob kept hold of this agreement, this covenant that these two brothers had just made of Esau's own free will. Okay? I'll read that again. Verse 14. I read 13 again. And Esau's portion in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Abraham had bought from the children of Chet for the possession of a burial ground, Esau also sold to Jacob, and Jacob bought all of this from his brother Esau for a given value. And Jacob wrote the whole of this in his sefer, and he testified the same with witnesses and sealed it, and the sefer remained in the hands of Jacob. And when Nimrod, the son of Cush, died, his men lifted him up and brought him in consternation and buried him in this city. And all the days that Nimrod lived were 215 years, and he died. And the days that Nimrod reigned upon the people of the land were 185 years. And Nimrod died by the sword of Esau in shame and contempt. And the seed of Abraham caused his death, as he had seen in his dreams. And at the death of Nimrod, his kingdom became divided into many divisions, and all whose parts that Nimrod reigned over were restored to the respective kings of the land, who recovered them after the death of Nimrod. And all the people of the house of Nimrod were for a long time enslaved to all the other kings of the land. So at the death of Nimrod, all the people whose land Nimrod had usurped was given back to them, and they came and took it back over. And all Nimrod's men who were there became their slaves. All right, so let's jump back over to Jasher chapter 7 and fill in a couple of these other places. And what we're going to do, y'all, the first like 22 verses is like genealogy. So I want y'all to read that book. For the sake of time today, we're going to skip past most of the genealogy, and we're going to pick the genealogy up at verse 18. And then we're going to go from there so it can fill in this about Nimrod and what these garments were that Esau stripped from Nimrod's body that he went and hid when he killed him. All right, Jasher chapter 7, starting at verse 18. These are the sons of Shem, according to their families, and their numbers in those days were about 300 men. These are their generations of Shem. These are the generations of Shem. Shem begat Arphaxad, and Arphaxad begat Shalak, and Shalak begat Eber. And to Eber were born two children. The name of one, Peleg, for in his days the sons of men were divided, and in the latter days the earth was divided. And the name of the second was Joktan, meaning that in his day the lives of the sons of men were diminished and lessened. These are the sons of Joktan: Almadad, Shaleth, Kerzammovith, Yerach, Haram, Uzal, Delak, Obal, Abiyamel, Sheva, Ophir, Kavilah, and Yovel. All of these are the sons of Joktan. And Peleg, his brother, begat Ruth, and Ruth begat Serug, and Serug begat Nahor, and Nahor begat Terah. And Terah was 38 years old, and he begat Haran and Nahor. And Cush, the son of Ham, the son of Noah, took a woman in those days in his old age, and she bore a son. And they called his name Nimrod, saying, At that time, the sons of men again began to rebel and transgress against Yahuwah. And the child grew up, and his father loved him exceedingly, for he was the son of his old age. Now listen to this. This is where it tells you about these garments that Esau had just stolen from Nimrod.
Did you draw this?
And the garments of skin which Yahuwah made for Adam and his woman when they went out of the garden were given to Cush. For after the death of Adam and his woman, the garments were given to Enoch, the son of Jared. And when Enoch was taken up to Yahuwah, he gave them to Methuselah his son. And at the death of Methuselah, Noah took them and brought them into the ark. And they were there with him until they went out of the ark. And then they're going out. Ham stole those garments. Ham stole those garments from Noah, his father, and took them and hid them from his brothers. And when Ham begat his firstborn Cush, he gave him the garments in secret, and they were with Cush many days. And Cush also concealed them from his sons and brothers. And when Cush had begotten Nimrod, he gave him those garments through his love for him. And Nimrod grew up. And when he was 20 years old, he put on those garments. And Nimrod became strong when he put on the garments. And Yahuwah gave him might and strength. And he was a mighty hunter in the earth. Yea, he was a mighty hunter in the field. And he hunted the animals. And he built altars. And he offered upon them the animals before Yahuwah. And Nimrod strengthened himself. And he rose up from amongst his brethren. And he fought the battles of his brethren against all their enemies round about. And Yahuwah delivered all the enemies of his brethren into his hands. And Yahuwah prospered him from time to time in his battles. And he reigned upon the earth. Therefore, it became current in those days when a man ushered forth those that he had trained up for battle, he would say to them, like Yahuwah did to Nimrod, who was a mighty hunter in the earth, and who succeeded in the battles that prevailed against his brethren, that he delivered them from the hand of their enemies. So Yahuwah strengthened us and delivered us this day. And when Nimrod was 40 years old, at the time when there was war between his brethren and the children of Japheth, so that they were in the power of their enemies. And Nimrod went forth at that time, and he assembled all the sons of Cush and their families, about 460 men, and he hired also from some of his friends and acquaintances about 80 men, and he gave them their hire. And he went with them to battle. And when he was on the road, Nimrod strengthened the hearts of the people that went with him. And he said to them, do not fear, neither be alarmed, for all our enemies will be delivered into our hands, and you may do with them as you please. And all the men that went were about 500, and they fought against their enemies. Stop, go over there. And they destroyed them and subdued them. And Nimrod placed standing officers over them in their respective places. And he took some of their children as security, and they were all servants to Nimrod and to his brethren. And Nimrod and all the people that were with him turned homeward. And when Nimrod had joyfully returned from battle, after having conquered his enemies, all his brethren, together with those who knew him before, assembled to make him king over them. And they placed a regal crown upon his head. And he set over his subjects and people, princes, judges, and rulers, as in the custom amongst kings. And he placed Terah, the son of Nahor, the prince of his host, and he aligned him and elevated him above all his princes. And while he was reigning according to his heart's desire, after having conquered all his enemies around, he advised with his counselors to build a city for his palace, and they did so. And they found a large valley opposite to the east, and they built him a large and extensive city. And Nimrod called the name of the city that he built Shinar, for Yahuwah had vehemently shaken his enemies and destroyed them. And Nimrod dwelt in Shinar, and he reigned securely, and he fought with his enemies and subdued them, and he prospered in all his battles, and his kingdom became very great. And all the nations and tongues heard of his fame, and they all gathered themselves to him, and they bowed down to the earth, and they brought him offerings, and he became their Lord and King. And they all dwelt with him in the city at Shinar, and Nimrod reigned in the earth over all the sons of Noah, and they were all under his power and counsel. And all the earth was of one tongue and words of union. But Nimrod did not go in the ways of Yahuwah, and he was more wicked than all the men that were before him, from the days of the flood unto those days. And he made gods of wood and stone, and he bowed down to them. and he rebelled against Yahuwah and taught all his subjects and the people of the earth his wicked ways. And Mardon his son was more wicked than his father. And everyone that heard the acts of Mardon, the son of Nimrod, would say concerning him, from the wicked goes forth wickedness. Therefore it became a proverb in the whole earth, saying, from the wicked goes forth wickedness, and that was current in the words of men from that time to this. And Terah, the son of Nahor, prince of Nimrod's host, was in those days very great in the sight of the king and his subjects, and the king and princes loved him, and they elevated him very high. And Terah took a woman, and her name was Amthilo, the daughter of Cornebo, and the women of Terah conceived and bore him a son in those days. And the woman of Terah conceived and bore him a son in those days. Terah was 70 years old when he begot him, and Terah called the name of his son that was born to him Abram, because the king had raised him in those days and dignified him above all the princes that were with him. So we know now, y'all, that Esau, when he ran into his brother Jacob, he wasn't just hungry from his hunting. He was famished because he had been running, because he had just killed the mightiest king of the earth, Nimrod, and he had stolen his clothing from him that had been passed down from Adam all the way to Noah, and Ham stole those garments from his father Noah and hid them among his line, and they passed them down secretly, and those clothing found themselves on the back of Nimrod, which made him this mighty hunter, right? So now we understand that Esau, he didn't just get tricked by Jacob to sell his birthright and all that belonged to him. Esau truly thought that day Nimrod's men were going to catch up with him and he was going to die that day. So you know how people are doing like their last will and testament, because they know their days are numbered and they want to make sure all their stuff is pushed out to the right people. That's what Esau's mind was at that moment. He was in duress and he just knew for certain that he was going to die that day. That's why he, of his own free will, gave everything that he had to his brother Jacob. And it was witnessed by the surrounding witnesses, signed, sealed, and Jacob kept that document with him. And we're going to see that document is going to come into play sometime later down the road, where they're going to be fighting over this particular land. They're going to find out that, wait a minute, we got this document among ourselves. This was not stolen. Wait a minute. This was actually agreed to by both parties, and we still have that document among us. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the reading for today. That was Genesis 25, 26, and 27. And we filled in those missing pieces with Jasher 27, and we hopped back to Jasher 7 so we could see what that was and why Esau was in a state of mind he was to give all his wealth and his kingdom over to his brother, right? Okay, so now when you read this story, read it with the expanded and the full story so you can understand it, right? Because this is going to make a great deal of difference as we understand who we are, the bloodborn of Jacob, who have been scattered and dispersed to the four corners of the earth. We have to really understand all of this if we're going to walk in the fullness of what our ancestors did, of what our forefathers did when they were still alive here on this earth. And what we're going to get into tomorrow is going to blow your mind. If we would have as much faith as our forefathers did when we walked this earth, we would begin to see the power of Yah begin to shake the grounds of this earth for us, because we walk in his laws and his statutes and his commands, and he hears us and he fights for us, y'all. I'm so excited about all the rest of these stories I got to fill in for y'all. So please read ahead if you got time to, so you can track with me, but if not, if you don't have time to, no worries. We're going to be here standing our post daily like we have been doing the last 3 years, and we're going to read it out loud to you if you don't have the time. This way, you can just put it in your ear while you're going about your day. At least you'll have the opportunity to get it inside of you. If you don't like listening to my voice, go to YouTube. There are multiple different voices, people who have recorded the book of Jasher and all the books of their Apocrypha and some of the other hidden stuff that is not canonized with the Bible. No matter how you get it, Just get it so you can understand what's really going on. And I'm telling you, these stories, these historical accounts will strengthen your faith, and it will strengthen your confidence in your prayers when you talk to y'all, knowing that he hears you and that he will answer you. All right, y'all. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump on over here to Numbers, to the blessing, so I can bless you all. We can all be about our day. All right. So the blessing we all know is found in Numbers chapter 6.
So you got on 2
Y'all,
days.
go find my mouse, please. I don't know who took it.
It was in your room the whole time.
Really? But my laptop was here. Numbers chapter 6.
And you left your laptop. Oh, and you left.
Oh,
your
you're welcome,
mouse.
Kenneth. He said,
Dang.
thank you for the teaching. For those of y'all that can't see over here on Facebook. You're welcome. It's my pleasure. I really do enjoy this. Move. Okay. All right, y'all. Numbers chapter 6. And the blessing starts at verse 22 all the way down to the end of the chapter, verse 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazarite vow. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, and speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, on this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, may Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all, and I will see y'all I will see y'all tomorrow, but 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bright and early, y'all. We're going to be here standing our post. All right. Love you, and I see you in the morning.